Now, if you're like me, you've probably heard it said that everybody goes through hard things. And earlier in life, I might have been like, everybody? I don't know if everybody does. And I don't know if technically everybody does. Like maybe there are some people that slide through without getting any hard stuff. But I think about my, like some experience, some health challenges that we have in our family currently. And I think about my brothers and the fact that, all of them have had some rough stuff in their life. And for most of them in the not too distant past, um, and then I think about, um, in my parents, they lost my sister when she was 18. She was killed in a car accident that wasn't her fault. And, so, the chances of something nasty happening to you at some point in life are pretty high. And I'm thinking about resilience. So what is resilience? Where does it come from? And what's is there a good kind of resilience, a bad kind of resilience? So I would theorize that there is a bad kind of resilience. The kind of resilience that kind of dismisses, the hard things of life as being not that hard, and kind of seeks to just go through the motions of life, whether or not your innards are keeping up with your outards. And I don't think that's likely healthy or very sustainable. I think that, when you go through life and you have hard things and you don't take them to Jesus, you don't process them in any kind of a meaningful way, I don't think that's healthy. And I think, long term, like you or your family or somebody that you're close to is probably going to pay the price for that. Whether it's in falling into some type of sin, some type of emotional breakdown, or just becoming crusty hearted. Like I just don't think it's good to go that route. Um, and I don't know if I have a Bible verse to back it up per se. Um, but probably one indicator is just like if your heart grows cold towards God, you might stop and take a little inventory and be like, well, is there some nasty stuff that's happened to me that I've just kind of shoved off to the side, and God's kind of gotten shoved off to the side with it? So back to resilience. Well, what's the good kind of resilience? Where does it come from? I do not claim to have studied this intensely or to really have deep knowledge on this. I think I kind of feel like it comes down to perspective, and not just perspective, but partly perspective and environment. I think are two huge factors here. So in terms of environment, I think surrounding yourself with people who support you, who don't call you a weak little turd, because you shed a tear every now and again, but who truly care about you. You can talk about what's going on, and but also who don't encourage you to get mired. Right? They give you a hug and then they give you a hand. Right? And it's like, well, let's get up and start walking again. And then I think about perspective, and I think this is a major one. So like, if I'm entitled to a good life with no bumps in it, if I'm in, if I feel like I have a right to a certain thing and it doesn't happen at all that way, I think that's very hard to remain resilient with that kind of perspective when hard times come. If my perspective is that this life is all there is, that also isn't great, because I'm like, well, if this life is not that great and this life is all there is, that's not great for resilience either. And so having the long view, having the overall picture, experiencing the presence and the love of God can, even in the midst of like nastiness, I think can be a major key to be able to keep going. And I don't know that I always experience that in the middle of it. And I think probably a lot of people maybe struggle to. So this is not a thou must, but this is like, I think this is another one of those things that can be really helpful, I think, in resilience. And so having a perspective, maybe the thing that to kind of pair with the perspective thing is also the focus thing. So the nasties in life can loom so big in our minds that we're like, kind of get obsessed with it, actually. And I don't think that's healthy either. Like, for most of us, so going back to my example of me and my siblings all having experienced, some hard things in our adult life, all of us actually have really great things in our life too. And so to fail to be grateful for the good things that we do have. I'm not necessarily a believer that good things cancel bad things. Like, it's not necessarily like, well, because because I have money in my bank account, I can be happy. Or that like cancels out like the pain I'm experiencing from a family member who's going through X, Y, and Z. Like, no, I don't think that's necessarily a valid perspective. But like, we still get to choose where we focus our attention to. And if we focus our attention on the hard things to the exclusion of the good things, and then I feel like we're just making life harder for ourselves at that point. I feel like it's not a mindset that lends itself to resilience. So there's some kind of like balance here, I think, between dealing with like emotionally processing the hard things and also not like wallowing in the hard things, and carrying a perspective of gratitude, and looking on the bright side. Maybe has kind of a bad rap, but I'm actually a fan. I'm actually a fan of looking on the bright side. As much as I have potentially been cynical in the past, maybe still struggle with it at moments, but I do believe looking on the bright side is essentially biblical, because there's plenty of brightness, and I, for one, want to live a life characterized much more by joy than by pain. And while the pain many times isn't so optional, it just kind of is there and it comes. In general, I would say we can choose joy. And I don't for anyone who's like listening to this and they're like, in the bottom of the valley right now, and they're just like, oh, he's just saying choose joy. Well, he's just an idiot. He doesn't know what I'm experiencing. Well, I'm not saying, oh, just choose joy and you'll be fine. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that as you're making your way back out of the bottom of the valley, look for opportunities to choose joy, because it's there. It can be found, and it makes your life better, not worse. And personally, I want a better life, not a worse life.